Hello and welcome to the morning after show. I hope that I'm able to wake you up with a loud good morning because it's the morning after show and you get to wake up with us here at Roto Radar and our brand new show. I am joined by my co-host Jared, who is to my left. Jared, how are you doing, man? I know this is the second day. No, we've both had very little sleep, but I'm still excited to talk about some sports with you, man.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. I love this new routine. I love that we're able to wake up with everybody here. Uh, Hopefully, you guys on the West Coast are still awake because we're gonna be talking about some awesome stuff today.
Yeah, it's a fun stream, man. We were lining up the topics with our associate producer yesterday, and it was like, yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. This is gonna be a good time. So I'm excited to go into some fun topics on the morning after show. And yeah, how did you do in DFS last night, Jared?
Did well. Obviously, Blake Snell did his thing last night. We talked about that on 30 to lock. Uh, Also, congratulations on your Albert Pujols call. That was amazing.
Yeah,
I had to shout that one out because that happened really early in the slate.
it did.
Kyle Adrian, what's up, man? Subscribe to Tier 1 for 15 months. What's good, man? Glad to see you in here this morning. Dude, yeah, Pujols, it's just a thing, right? Like at this point, you just got to play him when he plays at Busch Stadium.
Yeah, I guess so, right? And I mean, like, I had that take. I noticed it, and I was like, oh, come, like, it's almost like a movie, right? It was the first time he had been to Busch Stadium in like the past 2 years, and it was like this feels too much like a good call here. So happy he got us a home run at 2100. Jay Koo said Logan Webb tout was big, was only like sub 2%. Yeah, he had a good night. I know there was a few pitchers who had a good night. I know my pitcher did not have a good night, but we get a chance to talk about everything that happened on last night's slate and talk about a few pitchers in a later segment. Without further ado, let's get started. Let's talk about our first segment, Jared. It's a fun one too because it's one that's near and dear to my heart. We get to talk about some college football rankings. We got the AP top 25 yesterday. Obviously, you have
Yep.
Alabama up top. You have a few movers and shakers that moved big time. UCLA, one of the predominant ones, ended up moving up 26 spots, and North Carolina moved down 20 spots all the way down to 24th. Like, it's a pretty insane ranking. I want to know what was the most surprising thing for you here in these college football rankings.
Well, obviously, we know this year that things are a little bit different with the schedule, and these top 25 teams basically don't really get to tee off on some of the schools that they used to tee off on to get warmed up for the first couple weeks of the season. So we did see a matchup like Wisconsin and Penn State the other day, one week right out of the books. So I'm interested to see how that changes things moving forward because I think we're not necessarily too early in a lot of this stuff, but we are in a sense, right? I think that Notre Dame has its way to move up the rankings. Cincinnati is interesting at 7. I feel like that. I mean, you can speak to them a little bit more than I can, but that seems like a team that's going to fall a little bit down here as we go along. But the UCLA jump does not surprise me. They also have played an extra game compared to a lot of the field. So I don't know. For me, I'm trying to look at this with the glass half full and try to give these teams some credit, but at the same time, it is a little bit difficult after just one week of actually seeing them play.
Yeah, definitely. How much credit can you give these guys when it's not really for sure what's going to happen here? We saw Clemson move down, and I know they looked bad week one with facing off against that really good Georgia defense. We talked about that a lot yesterday. I think they'll be just fine at the end of the day. Like, I think that offensive line will struggle, but they'll still look like a good football team. And the UCLA jump is insane, man. Like the fact that they were able to beat LSU this past week, and they had an absolute routing of the team they played in week 0. They clearly deserve to be in the top 25 after those performances. And so it's good to see them up there. I'm so happy to see North Carolina 24th. As soon as I saw them be a top 10 team with the preseason rankings, I was like, all right, this is overhyped, man. I'm a little
Yep.
biased because I'm a Dookie, but like they're overhyped. This isn't going to last. And I'm happy to see that. Hopefully it doesn't last with them ranked at 24th now. I will say, we do have a few matchups in week 2 that end up being with teams in this AP top 25. You have Iowa and Iowa State, who are ranked 10th and
Yep.
ninth. You have Oregon and Ohio State, 3 and 12th. And then you also have, actually, that's it. Those are the only two games with ranked teams playing against each other. Let's talk about both of them. Let's start off with Oregon and Ohio State. Oregon did not look good in week one, definitely struggled in their first matchup of the year. Can they take on this Ohio State team?
I am, I hate to be the guy that says I'm bullish for Ohio State, even from Wisconsin, because that seems like a crime. But I'm very, yeah, I think that people are still underrating Ohio State. Even I know it's hard to underrate them, and but after what I saw, people were waiting and biting at the bit to try to destroy this team after the first half that they had last week. But they came back strong, and they scored 30 plus points in the second half, and they looked really good. So I know Minnesota had looked the rails were falling off at that point, but Ohio State's the real deal. They'll get things going, and honestly, I mean, they're in a position where they can't lose. And I think that they just take it to Oregon here. I think there's, the difference between the Big Ten and the Pac-10 is just so widespread now. Yeah. It didn't used to be that way as much, but it's definitely taken a clear path towards the Big Ten.
It definitely has taken a big path. I mean, like Oregon, like I watched that whole game because we had some of those pieces highlighted in the DraftKings article, and they just didn't look good, man. Like it wasn't a good showing from Oregon. So I think Ohio State does take that one, and I don't have the odds in front of me, Jared. Do you potentially have the odds from BetOnline in front of you for that game?
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I have the Iowa one pulled up in front of me, but I'm looking and I'm not finding it, so I'll get back to you.
I got you right here. Minus 14.5 for Ohio State is the point spread. Minus 600 money line favorites. I don't know if I'm willing to take minus 14.5, but I do still think they win that one. So yeah, John Ramey said opened at 14.5, lost their best play. He said that he thinks Minnesota is better than people are giving them credit for. Yeah, I mean, like, we didn't get to talk about Minnesota this past time out. They did lose their running back, who I played their running back so much last season because he is such a just, like, workhorse type of guy. He's going to give you 30 carries, and he's going to do his thing. I agree, though. Minnesota is better than people are giving him credit for. What do you think?
They certainly are, and losing Muhammad Ibrahim is something that's going to bite them so hard in the rest of the season. He's probably going to be, I don't even know if he's going to be able to play another college snap, Josh, because I think this guy goes right to the NFL draft next year.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he comes back just to play, but I think that with the fact that now he has that injury on him, I would just go ahead, and if I was him, I would go ahead and take the money and play in the league.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. Just reading through the chat, John Ramey says, since he plays at Notre Dame in a few weeks, I would say it's an easy win for Notre Dame, but we saw what just happened with FSU. Maybe they tighten the ship up a little bit. Kai says, our other AP, be careful what you say about OU. I guess that's the one team we haven't talked about yet, right? Like Oklahoma in the 4 spot in these rankings. They were previously number 2. What do you think about this Oklahoma team? We didn't see a good showing from Rattler in week 1.
No, but I think that he's ready. I think he's going to bounce back here. I mean, you say not a great performance, but he's, I do know he threw 2 interceptions, but still threw almost for 400 yards. So like like that offense is going to continue to do its thing. And I think it does bounce back. I think you see Oklahoma sit around that 4 to 6 range for most of the year.
Yeah, I would not be surprised by that. All right, one more thing before we move on from this segment. I want you to take a team that's below 13th in the rankings, or actually outside of the top 10, and who is going to get inside the top 10 by the end of the year, and then take someone inside the top 10 and tell me who's going to be out of the top 10 by the end of the year.
Okay, so the team that's going to be out of the top 10 is going to be Cincinnati.
Easy answer there.
The team that I like to advance inside, that's actually really tough. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go say Florida.
Okay. I can get behind Florida for sure. When it comes to a team that's going to fall out of the top 10, I think I'm leaning Notre Dame after what I saw in that first game. And then if I'm talking about a team that's going to get inside the top 10, Call me crazy, but UCLA has really impressed me. I've really liked what I've seen from them. So I think UCLA has the potential to get inside the top 10. All right, that's the end of this segment. We're going to move on to the next segment, and we are going to be talking about some fighting because, it's me on the pod. It's me here. I have to talk about something UFC related or else I just can't handle myself. And I wasn't able to do it yesterday, so I am able to do it today. We get to talk about the Paul brothers, who got mentioned by Jorge Masvidal the other day. Masvidal said that he wanted to smash both their heads in. He said he wanted to punch a couple of Disney faces. And he said some pretty strong words about the Paul brothers. Not only that, but I find I think it's super surprising considering that for the Woodley fight, Masvidal was training with Jake Paul. There was plenty of pictures about the two of them training together. So, what do you think here? I know it's been a bad run for UFC fighters when it comes to boxing, but is Masvidal possibly your saving grace?
I would like to believe that. I would think that you would feel very comfortable betting Masvidal there.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the one guy you'd be like, all right, this is going to be over, right? So, I think a lot of it's obviously smoke. I mean, they do the best. Like the Paul brothers are the best at creating smoke, and their opponents do a pretty good job as well. If that happened, I would really consider the reasoning why Masvidal would ever even leave the UFC at this point. But I understand that the money is probably tremendous in that regard.
It's just money talks, right? Like at the end of the day, that's what it is for these UFC fighters. I've talked about it a few times. These UFC fighters really don't get paid what they are worth to this organization. And this is your chance at a money fight, right? Like this is your chance to just rake in the big bucks if you face off against Jake Paul or Logan Paul, either one.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Masvidal is doing here. He knows there's a ton of money involved. He's trying to use inflammatory words to get something started. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something, especially if you do see Masvidal lose his next time out. I just wouldn't be surprised at all. Masvidal said to Dana White to send in the assassin. Direct quotes there. I just think, he would have to get the okay from the UFC, but if he did, it'd be a really fun fight. Give me your imaginary line. What would you tell BetOnline to set the odds at if Masvidal and Jake Paul faced off?
That's actually really tough because I don't think any UFC fighter's been a favorite against Jake Paul. So, in continuing that, I mean, if you're the book, you're giving Jake Paul probably minus 200, right? So that they kind of bait Masvidal money, the people that want to bet on Masvidal. So I would say minus 200, and I think that's it's weird because we're setting lines in a thing that we don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
And we don't even know if it's rigged or not, which I'm sure it is. I'm not going to say anything, but it's
there you go.
If you're the sports book, you want people to bet on the people on the side of the public. So I think people would bet on Masvidal there.
I think people would, man. And people love Masvidal too. Like everyone likes Masvidal quite a bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what the BetOnline did or the sports books did. Kai Berry said Dana won't let it happen. I don't know, man. I think Dana's sick and tired of Jake Paul running his mouth and facing off against all these UFC guys and giving them a bad name. I think that it's only a matter of time till Dana lets a current roster fighter go at him. And I hope it's Masvidal, man. I think Masvidal might be the one. I'm hoping that Masvidal might be the one because I am sick and tired of rooting for these UFC fighters and seeing them either perform like shit or, in Ben Askren's case, just get completely knocked out. All right, Jared. Anything else you want to touch on in this subject? If not, we're going to move on to the next segment.
No. I think this. I'm interested to see what happens. I think that this is probably not the last time that we saw a Jake or a Paul brother fight in this calendar year. Maybe they sneak one in towards the holiday.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, there's just so much money generated around these fights. You want to see them. I'm sure they want them because it's a lot of money for them and it's a lot of experience for them too. All right, let's move on to the next segment. We get to talk a little bit about some MLB because we got a lot of interesting things happening yesterday. Sandy Anderson said that Jacob deGrom has a partial UCL tear, told the media not to overreact, so we're not going to overreact either. Said it's basically just a bruise, but that's why he's been on the DL for the past 2 months. We saw Logan Webb pitch another amazing game last night, this time against the Colorado Rockies in Coors. And we saw Garrett Cole go out with an apparent injury last night. So let's start on the DeGrom case. Do we see DeGrom pitch again this year? What do you think?
I know you said that we shouldn't be overreacting, but I am definitely overreacting,
Yeah.
and he's not pitching again this year. I don't think so. I think that if they do anything, like we only have 3 weeks of the regular season left, so and the Mets are going to be in a spot where I think that the best that they can hope for is that wild card 2 spot, and in that case, you're in a 3-game series. So if you're not throwing DeGrom out there, I don't know what you're doing, and that would have to be a month from now. So I don't think he's pitching again this season.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And it just goes to like what what could this Mets team be if they were always healthy, right? Like what could they be if they had DeGrom, if they had Syndergaard, if this offense wasn't hurt 90% of the time. I feel like every time I look at this offense, someone's hurt in it. So like it just goes to the case of what would the Mets be if they had everyone healthy. I want to hear it from you.
If they didn't, if they didn't Met,
yeah, if they didn't Met, where would the Mets be right now in the NL East? Do you think they're the number one team?
I would think that. So I mean, I think that the Braves, if they had Acuna, would be the better team.
Yeah.
But if the Mets actually stayed healthy and played like their roster showed, I think that they would be first by at least 5 games. So I think that's the NL East is always the team that has, if you notice all season long, it's been the league or the division that has the lowest amount of wins. So they're hovering 10 games below those teams in the West and the Brewers in the Central. And yeah, I just think it's unfortunate, and you see it in their owners' tweets and everything else. He's like, what do I have to do to get this team to actually win and be good? Like they did their job this year. Like he actually did his job, and they made moves and they got really good stars. They made a move to get Javi Baez at the trade deadline. It's just something that just happens to work out, and that's why everybody always says that the Mets are going to Met.
Yep, Mets are certainly going to Met. I mean, we're getting to the spot in the year, or in like just MLB wise, that the NL East, and I said the NL East on purpose, is very similar to the NFC least. Like they're almost the exact same division. Just don't expect a lot of wins out of there, and you won't be disappointed at the very least. All right, Logan Webb saw him pitch another gem last night against the Colorado Rockies. Went 7 innings, only allowed 3 earned runs. Looked really good, and looked really good doing it in Coors, which is an extremely hitter-friendly environment. Logan Webb's been incredible, man. Like I looked at his stats yesterday while I was doing research for the MLB DFS slate, and like to see that over the past month, the guy's xFIP is under 2 right now. I mean, a good xFIP is 3, and he's under 2. The K rate's up 30%. The ground ball rate's one of the best ground ball rates in the league. Is this the new SP1? And is this someone that could be like an ace long term in the NL and in the MLB?
Yeah, for me, like when you start thinking about the playoffs, right? We have to, instead of taking it in series of 7s, we kind of have to look at it as best of 3s in a sense. And he does crack that top 3 for this roster for me, if not making him the best, right? Like I think he's the guy that they can put in that spot. Now, is he playoff tested? We haven't seen that yet, but I do think that he's a better starting pitcher than Kevin Gausman at this point, right? Like you have to kind of, I think it's close, but I think that you have to kind of use that momentum that they have right now and if he keeps pitching solid, we've probably got 2 or 3 more outings before the playoffs start. It's going to be really cool and interesting to see what this Giants team can do. And I'm rooting that they take down the Dodgers. I'm really hoping that they do.
You and me both, man. We're both on that train. Jay Koo said he's won over Gausman easily now. I tend to agree, man. This guy has been absolutely dominant anytime he gets on the mound. So, I don't know. He's filthy, and he's done well against good teams too, right? It's not him just dominating against these teams that are under 500. We've seen him pitch well against teams like the Dodgers and the Padres and, plenty of good teams in the NL West. So, like, I really like him. I think he's SP1 right now for this Giants team, and I think this is someone that you'll see continually be good. I mean, a good barometer for success in the MLB is, are you able to keep the ball on the ground? The fact that his ground ball rate is above 60% right now against both-handedness is an insane stat to know, and just insane to see that he's been pitching so well, kind of out of nowhere, right? Because we didn't see it before. All right, on to the next part of this segment. Garrett Cole left with an injury yesterday. Didn't look good. Was definitely an apparent injury and had to leave halfway through his outing where he was pitching decently against the Toronto Blue Jays. Yankees, since the win streak, are now 2-8 over their last 10 games. It's been a struggle bus for the Yankees. This is no fun to talk about. I'm not having a good time. Jared, take it away.
You made the segment.
I know, I made it. Like that, I have no one to blame but myself because I'm the executive producer here. But like, take it away. What do you think the Garrett Cole injury means for the AL Cy Young race? Because he was the leader in that race until this injury, and also give me what it means for this Yankees team when it comes to their playoff hopes.
Well, the first thing that I'll say to boost your spirits a little bit is that they are still sitting in that wild card one spot. And they have, I know that they're going to have to battle that out with the Red Sox, and you have the Blue Jays sneaking up behind them, as well as the Mariners and the A's. It's going to be a very tough wild card race. I think that the spots, all the division leader spots for the American League are pretty set in stone for the most part. But the wild card is going to be insane. So when we talk about best of three kind of series, Garrett Cole being out of this rotation is going to be a serious, serious thing. And I would be a little bit scared, but also note that you probably are going to be able to slide through that first wild card spot.
Yeah, I hope that we're able to retain that first wild card spot. I see the chat rejoicing now that I get to talk about the Yankees being bad. Bodine said, "You love to see it." Brian said, "Love that the Yankees are on the struggle bus." Jay Cruz said, "Toronto's really going to sneak in." I think if any team has a chance to sneak in here because of the Yankees' woes, it's going to be that Blue Jays team. I mean, the AL East is an absolute beast of a division, and it sucks that Toronto isn't in the playoff race right now, but that lineup certainly should be. And it's hard to not argue that the lineup is at least not much worse than the Yankees lineup, but their rotation is certainly better. They have Robbie Ray, they have Hyunjin Ryu, they have Jose Barrios, and they have a few other arms, Alek Manoah as well. Like, you're talking about a really solid rotation up and down. I don't think you can compare the Yankees to that rotation. So, as a non-biased person that watches a ton of sports, I feel like there's a good chance that the Blue Jays sneak in. We'll see, though. I'm really hoping that's not the case, man. I'm hoping that I'm wrong. Jay Cruz also said A's are done, stick a fork in them. So that's what I want to hear from you. If the Yankees aren't going to make the playoffs, if they do fall out of the wild card, who ends up being the first wild card in the AL and who ends up being the second wild card in the AL?
Sure. So the logical answer here is the Red Sox, and then the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are 9-1 in their last 10 games, so the fact that they're hanging around is great. Blue Jays have a very similar record to both NL West teams or AL West teams, the Mariners and the A's. If John thinks the A's are done, then I have to make the bold call here and say that the Mariners could slide into that 2 spot. That would be wild to see.
That would be wild to see. I mean, the Mariners, like, the AL's so good, man. Like that's what this comes. That's the takeaway, right? Like, Mariners are good, even though they're in a tough division. The Blue Jays are really good. Again, tough division. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how the whole playoff race shakes out. And we have about like 20 days to see how it's going to shake out. So it's going to be a fun 20 days of baseball. Anything else you want to touch on that you maybe saw from the MLB last night regarding news from the MLB or impressive performances or whatnot?
I will say that BetOnline took down the AL Cy Young odds here, which is no surprise. I kind of saw that happening. So honestly, I think that the next time that shows up, I think Lance Lynn is your clear favorite to win, which is mind-blowing, right? We talked about that before. Now it's pretty clear. Now it's pretty wide open that he's going to be the front runner.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane to see that, like, you're going to see him win now, right? Like that. Like, the AL Cy Young race feels like a fever dream is what it feels like. It's been an insane race to keep up with. I see Jay Cruz saying Robbie Ray over Lance Lynn. D Ramified said, yo. What's going on, D Ramified? Jay Cruz also said, no, it's a 3-team race between the AL East teams. I can get behind it 100%. I could very easily see 3 teams making the AL East this year, or making the playoffs from the AL East this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. I'm just trying to be that guy and mess around, mix
Yeah, you
things up.
gotta.
I think if Seattle, like, give Seattle some credit here. I don't think they've had a 70-win season for the last like 5 years. So
It's crazy that like they offloaded in the trade deadline too, right? Like they traded away their best bullpen piece in Kendall Graveman, and they're still performing well. You're still seeing them do some things, some impressive things. So uh, it's good to see from that team that they're doing the stuff. All right, Jared, let's move on. Let's move on to our next segment, which is Flag on the Play. It's where we talk about some things that surprised us about last night's slate. I know I have a few things, and I'm sure you have a few things. I want to hear yours first, though. So, what impressed you? What surprised you about yesterday's slate? Whether it be a chalky player doing well when you didn't expect them to, or maybe not doing well when you expected them to not do or do well.
yeah, I want to say something about Chichi Gonzalez so bad, and I wish that we would have been able to take advantage of that kind of thing yesterday. But he just, man, from the start too, like literally the first at bat of the game, he gave up a double, and I was like, oh, here we go, it's time.
Yeah,
So hopefully you Giants fans took advantage of that yesterday. Uh, all I'll say, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that the left-handed hitters for the Giants were necessarily bad options because again, that bullpen and that pitcher just are so bad. But the industry keeps doing the same thing, right? They just load up on pitchers regardless of handedness, and
mm-hmm.
we saw Crawford and Belt both do really well, and that was kind of frustrating to see because I know that they were good plays, but they weren't the best plays necessarily.
For sure. Black Eddie said, "Yo, what's up, fam? What is going on, Black Eddie?" Yeah, there's a few things last night that were interesting to me. I mean, it ranges from a lot of topics, right? The Garrett Cole thing, definitely disheartening to see that he got injured, but you can't do anything about an injury. What really ticked me off, man, was that Eric Lauer decided to be a Cy Young candidate last night for your Brewers, even though he has sucked over the past month and just
Yep.
shut out the Phillies, who I had a three-man stack of. That hurt my soul a little bit. And then, I can't get over that. Talk about that first. The first game in that series, we saw that Philly absolutely dominated against Woodruff. And then yesterday, it's the other way around. You see that the Brewers absolutely dominate against who was on the mound tonight. I think it was Aaron Nola.
Yeah, it was, and he did pretty well. Gave up 3 runs, but the bullpen for Philly immediately imploded after he got out of the game. And the Brewers just, I don't know, when they're hot, they're hot. Yelich is finally starting to hit this year for the first time in what seems like 5 months. And yeah, I think that they just have a lot of really competent lefties and guys that can step up and make really really solid plays when it comes to crunch time. Right? We saw that on Sunday when I believe it was Sunday, maybe it was Monday. No, it was Sunday where they walked off the game with a grand slam against the Cardinals in the ninth inning.
Yes.
So it's like one of those things where they've had a lot of really clutch names that you wouldn't necessarily think of, that don't come to mind as clutch players like Rowdy Tellez, like Willie Adames, Avi Garcia. Like those guys are just like they're not household names. So it's weird to see, and I'm honestly still in shock that this team can be like a 95 win team.
Insane that they're going to be like. I keep seeing you guys because I keep looking at the standings. It gets more important for DFS terms the
Yeah.
later and later we get on in the year. And to see that at least last night, I don't know if these are updated now, but you guys were like 11 games ahead in the standings. I was like,
Yep.
what is
Yep.
going on here? Like, why
Yep.
can't we have an easy road like you guys do? Instead, we have to be we being the Yankees have to be in the toughest division in all of baseball. A few other things that surprised me, and something that I really wanted to touch on, what Tampa Bay did last night against Eduardo Rodriguez is polar opposites of what happened last Thursday because it was the same exact spot for Eduardo Rodriguez. Got the face off against that Tampa team. Last Thursday, he had a great start, right? Went 6 innings, had 6 strikeouts, got the win there, was a really good dub. And then yeah, last night, just the complete opposite. Just absolutely got shelled by that Tampa team. Especially when you look at the numbers that Nelson Cruz had last night, Zunino. I mean, those were your tournament winners by a mile. What do you think about Eduardo Rodriguez's performance last night?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go on the other side of this because we kind of know what to expect from Erod for the most part, and go ahead and say that Tampa Bay, that team is the most confusing team to get right. I
Yeah.
just they show up in the weirdest spots. They control with the best of them, but they're just I don't know. They're very gritty. They're very solid. I think Tampa, as close as they got last year, has the firepower to do it again, and they're sitting at 90 wins too. So I think it's more for me. It's more about that team than it is Erod. But we've also seen Erod do well in this matchup over the last 2 months. They faced him a lot. We've talked about Erod quite a bit. Like we talk about him every single time he comes up, and he's usually facing one of these teams. So yeah, I don't think we need to worry about Erod necessarily. I knew that he does have a tendency to get blown up if his cutter's not working. So I mean, it's just one of those things where you just got to take it and move on to the next day.
For sure. Last thing that I want to talk about, it's in Blake Snell. It's talking about Blake Snell a little bit. Obviously,
Yeah.
Snell had an amazing game, right? Like we can't doubt that. Took a no hitter into the 6th inning, or he took it into
Uh,
the 7th inning technically, and then ended up losing it. But like the thing that I want to talk about, and I guess this is more from a betting perspective, how did the Padres lose last night? Like you lost to like
yeah.
I talked about it on the podcast. That lineup was equivalent to a double A lineup. I don't even think it's right to
Mhm.
say it was a triple A lineup. That was a double A lineup. And the Padres couldn't score a run against a guy named Packy. Like it was mind blowing. It was mind boggling last night to see it. What's your thoughts on this Padres team?
Yeah. So I'm that guy, and I'm not going to try to. I think the Giants are clearly the best team in the NL West. Uh, I think that the Padres have a chance to get to be one of those two teams very soon, but I still think that every now and then they just can't seem to close. Right, they're starting to fall a little bit. They're starting to fall in the standings. I know they're going to make the playoffs still, it's because the rest of the NL is not as good. But it's definitely concerning when your starting pitcher is doing as well as he did, and then you still lose and don't even support him at all. That's very discouraging to see, especially against, like you said, a double A lineup. And when you're giving up, your bullpen is supposed to close that too. So the fact that they gave up 4 runs after that is pretty pathetic, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, you look at where the standings are for the MLB right now. We talked about that divisional or that wild card race being close in the AL. It's kind of just as close as the NL because right now, technically, you have Cincinnati in that
Yep.
second spot for the wild card. You have San Diego technically tied with them, but Cincinnati has the tiebreaker. Then you have Philly after that. They're 2 games back. You have the Mets after that. They're 3.5 games back. And then you have St. Louis, who's also 3.5 games back. So, like, incredibly
Right.
tight race here. The Dodgers are very clearly going to have the number 1 spot. They're like 14.5 games ahead of anyone else in this wild card race. But who are you giving it to? Is it Cincinnati? Is it San Diego? Is it Philly maybe? Who do you like to win this second wild card spot in the NL?
Yeah, so for me, it's all about looking at what have you done lately for me, and which team's starting to get hot, which teams are starting to turn it on, and it's clearly the Phillies. Like they're 7-3 in their last 10 games. I know that what happened last night, what happened, but they're going to get to a spot here where I think that they're going to rely on their starting pitching a lot more, and they have. I like this team a lot because when you look at the other teams outside of the Dodgers, who are the guys in the other teams that you're going to roll out starting pitching wise for a 3 game series? I think that you can rely heavily on these Phillies pitchers for that 3 game series, at least behind Nola.
Yeah, exactly. I can get behind it for sure. Just catching up with everyone in the chat. Brian says, who's clearly the best team in the NL West? I think he was
Oh,
talking.
I'm not repeating it. You heard me the first time, Brian.
There you go. JQ said Reds are making it over the Padres. I don't know if it's going to be either one of those teams, man. Like, I haven't been impressed what I've seen from Cincinnati. I don't think this is going to sound a little bit weird, so cut me some slack. But, like, the vibes aren't there, man. And Castellanos already said that he's not going to re-sign with Cincinnati. I feel like
Oh,
that
really?
just put it. Yeah, he did. He said he's going to test out free agency. I think
You don't
that
want to
just
hear
puts it.
that.
No, you don't, especially in like a playoff race, right? Like you are competing to be in the NL playoffs, and you've already said, I'm not going to be re-signing with this team. So you've kind of seen that have a residual effect with them going 3-7 over their last 10 games. I think it's more likely that you see one of these NL East teams getting into the playoffs with this second wild card spot. Like you said, Philly is 7-3 over their last 10, and the Mets 8-2 over their last 10. So, like, I think it's much more likely you see one of these teams end up getting there over the Padres and over the Phillies, especially because the Padres offense just doesn't seem like they need to go out in the offseason and get another hitter. Like, I don't know what it is, but you can't just rely on Machado and Tatis every day to get you all your runs. It's most likely not going to happen.
Yep, agreed with you.
Yeah. Life Augusti said y'all got to put respect on my Bay boys. Hey, I put plenty of respect on your Bay boys. I've talked about them plenty. All right, we're moving on into our Bet Online segment where we are not going to be talking about the wild card race anymore like I had up. We are going to be talking about some of our favorite bets. We're going to be doing something new today where we not only talk about who our favorite underdog is, we're also going to talk about our lock of the day. Jared, let's do it. Let's talk about some MLB bets that we potentially like today. And you got plenty. You got some afternoon games. Yep. You got some night games too. What are you thinking here while you're looking down the list?
Yeah, we got some day baseball to talk about and play in DFS world. Let's see. Underdogs are all really gross in the afternoon. Like, really gross.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm going to go... Oh, I like this one. I know this is very similar to what we did yesterday, but I think that backing Alcantara here in the Miami Marlins at just plus 100 roughly is definitely a solid bet.
I can 100% get behind it. You know, Alcantara is my boy. I think it's kind of crazy that you get him at plus 101. Like, that just seems absolutely wrong to put him at those odds. I'm looking through everything, seeing who I might potentially want to take here. Give me, you know what? Give me the Cubs. I know it's weird to say, but plus 110. We've seen this Reds team on a really bad stretch recently, like I just talked about. I believe in Alec Mills' ability to keep the ball on the ground. And Vladimir Gutierrez, I don't think he's the real deal. I think he is going to struggle, especially in this matchup. And Gutierrez just doesn't generate enough strikeouts to be good against this Cubs team. So Cubs would be my underdog of the day. Instead, we're introducing this new segment where we do take our lock of the day too. Remember, take this with a grain of salt. It's early in the morning, so we haven't seen any lineups or anything. You know, a pitcher might get scratched, so on and so forth. Make sure to keep updated on these bets. But if you had to pick one team that would be your lock of the day, who would it be?
Lock of the day. I mean, the lock of the day for me is Houston Astros money behind Urquidy, and I could even get behind the run line there. That's the first game on today's slate, so I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, I can certainly get behind that bet. For me, I am going to be going with give me over 9 in the Tigers facing off against the Pirates. Keller, not a good pitcher. Matt Manning, gosh, I wish he was on the main slate that way so we could talk
He is an
about
underdog.
He is an underdog, though. You know, man, I wish he was on the main slate. He's not on the main slate today. He's going to be on that weird early-only slate that they've been doing recently. But, yeah, I think that I really like the over 9 in that game. All right, we have one more segment. It's going to be something new we add. Just a little video to get you guys warmed up for your day. Something exciting to see, something funny to see, you know, something in that regard. And I found this last night, and it was kind of mind-blowing when I watched it. So I want you guys to watch it, and then we'll give our thoughts on it.
All year long, so I can't wait to share with you guys the updates of how this goes.
Hold on one second. There we go.
Presbyterian College, a tiny FCS school in South Carolina, is the most interesting team in college football this year. Here's why. They're coached by this guy, Kevin Kelly, who's a high school coaching legend from Arkansas. Kelly made national headlines as a head coach in Arkansas for his belief that his team should never punt, always go for 2, and always onside kick. Basically, he coaches like your most annoying friend plays Madden. This past offseason, Coach Kelly was hired by FCS team Presbyterian College and finally got to bring his video game style to the next level. And this weekend, he won his first game 84-43. That score's crazy enough, but wait until you hear the details. Presbyterian opened the game by recovering their own onside kick, and then their offense proceeded to score 10 consecutive touchdowns and kicking an onside kick after each of those. In just his very first game, Coach Kelly set the school record for points, touchdowns, total yards, and points and a half. I mean, just look at those quarterback stats. Have you ever seen anything like that? That is crazy. Now, this first game was against an NAIA school, so the competition will get tougher as the year goes along. But man, I just can't wait to see how this plays out. And if he's successful, how long until this guy becomes a coach of a Power 5 team? I'll be following Presbyterian closely all year long, so I can't wait to share with you guys the updates of how this goes. Presbyterian College,
Insane.
a tiny FCS
Like
school in South Carolina.
insane to see what's happening there at Presbyterian College. I saw it yesterday in full transparency. I texted the link to Jared and I was like, so what's your thoughts here? Potential segment? And I think you said something along the lines of, fuck yes. Like it needs to be a segment.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about Presbyterian College and what do you think about the Madden style of coaching there?
I mean, I can't get mad at any of this, right? I think it's an awesome story. I feel really bad for the team that was playing against them because they had to have known, right? Like, had a little bit of a sense that they did their job as far as like coach scouting. But I know that this was a team that's not necessarily in the same conference or division or anywhere close. Easy first game for them, but yeah, Presbyterian's going to be fun. Like, it might be a thing where like they try to get picked up. Like I'm gonna find a stream somewhere to watch them because when you're talking about their quarterback, Ren Heffley throwing for over 500 yards and 10 touchdowns on 50 attempts, and then they do so well that they have to put the backup quarterback in, and he throws 2 touchdowns. It's just it's amazing. Like, and the fact that they led the game off with an onside kick recovery and then scored 10 touchdowns in a row is just amazing. I can't even describe it.
Insane that they scored 10 touchdowns in a row and then just continue to pour it on, right? They still had 2 more touchdowns because the score was, they had 84 points. So, like, they scored 2 more. Just insane. Like, I know it's a crazy thing to conceptualize, but could you even see this working in, like, a Power 5 conference?
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, who's gutsy enough to take on that kind of heat? Because you're going to get a lot of press and stuff for that. So the fact that it works in a small school is great. But I would love to see it, but I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. Even though it would be amazing to watch every single Saturday.
I don't think so. I don't think we see it anytime soon. Last question just on this, because I think it's super interesting. So imagine, we already know the Texans are going to have a bad year, right? Why not? Like, why not try?
Yeah,
like, you're going, like, you're either going like 2-15, 1-16, or 0-17 this year. Just try it out for the ticket sales. Like, that's what I would do. I feel like it's not that bad of an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they're going to be able to do that with the guys that they have on their roster, but they can try it. They can figure it out.
I figure all you need is like a mobile QB. Boom, they have that in Tyrod Taylor. And if you're onside kicking, like, how much do you really need that defense? Hopefully not a lot. Hopefully you don't need a lot.
Yeah.
It would be fun to watch at least. A few comments in the chat about this. Statistically, it's a smart way to play, says Kai. I don't know if that's true, not punting and kicking onsides every time, but hey, maybe it is. That poor defense never left the field. Gosh, could you imagine being that defense that night that was playing against them, or being any defense that plays against them? Like, you are on the field for probably, like, time of possession must be insane for that team.
Right. Yeah. No, it's insane. I will say that I do agree with the fourth quarter or the fourth down takes, like going forward on fourth down. Like, I would definitely, like, we should be seeing that more in the NFL, and we have over the last 2 or 3 years specifically. So, yeah, I'm not like, as you go down each tier level of school football, it gets a little bit easier each time to convert on fourth down. So I like this quite a bit. I'm interested to see if they can break that 84 point total. I don't know if they'll get there again, but this team is going to be scoring like 60 points a game. And if you are an NFL scout, like, do you look at this differently? Like, how do you judge this? How do you say, is this person an NFL player, or is it like, it's obviously just system, right? Or do you actually think that there's talent here?
I think that's probably what sucks the most in this situation, right? Because if you are an NFL scout, you're probably, it's Presbyterian College, right? Like, it's a low FCS team. There's probably not many NFL scouts going regardless. But if you are an NFL scout going, you're probably like, oh, well, Yeah, he had 10 touchdowns, but they kicked onsides every time. Like, of course he's
Right.
going to have more plays, more yardage in the offensive game if they have the ball more and they're using this type of coaching. So I don't know. I feel like it's a detriment to the kids if there are those NFL scouts, or not even NFL scouts, just like college scouts from higher end teams coming for transfers or coming to look at transfers. And, it might hurt their stock. Who knows?
Yeah.
Kai
Yeah.
also said people once said air raid and spread wouldn't work. I mean, you always see like these revolutions in sports, right? Like the 3-point attempt is one in basketball. The shift is one in baseball. Could this potentially be the next one? Like I think it's a little drastic to say, but like who knows?
Who knows is right. Like I'm all for it. Like I said, the onside kick thing is weird, but I think that he's doing it right. I mean, the punting thing is strange too, especially. But if you're, for me, if you're past the opponent, if you're in opponent territory and you have fourth down and you don't have reliance on your kicker, then you go for it. Like that's how I'm seeing it. But and we've seen NFL teams do it. It could be a thing where it still takes a few more years to take effect fully, but I do expect teams to pass on fourth down a lot more. But yeah, it's crazy to see.
It is definitely crazy to see. All right, it's the end of our show. We got through all our segments. If you guys want to ask any questions, we're still live for another 13 minutes with you guys. Breaking down anything you want to know. Jared, anything interesting pop out to you yesterday? I know we talked about those Ravens running backs, and of course, as soon as we got off the NFL stream, wasn't even able to talk about it. Found out that Le'Veon Bell got signed to the practice squad, most likely going to make that 53-man roster. Just give your NFL spin on it, your NFL DFS spin on it. What does this do for Gus Edwards?
Sure. So I think we're going to be on a little bit different sides of this, right? So for me, for the regular season, I'm trying to pay attention here on how the Ravens use their running backs. And obviously, we know that they're going to run the ball a ton, but they don't use their running backs in the passing game very much. So it's really important that when they do that they have pass blockers on the field. Le'Veon Bell is not really necessarily a guy that can do that, but he can step in. They have a young guy in Williams who is going to come in and play some running back snaps too. So Gus Edwards obviously is going to be in a spot where I don't think he's a bell cow, but I think he's definitely a guy that's going to be. We can expect probably 18 touches a game for Gus, and I think that's where I would stop there because we're not going to get targets for him in the backfield. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they turn him into that, but we didn't see that from Dobbins last year either, and we were hoping to see that from him this year. I just don't think that the same skill set applies. I know Gus Edwards, for those of you who don't know, was a very good pass catching back coming out of college. So it'd be interesting to see what they do, but I think that they can feel a little bit better. Again, we love J.K. Dobbins so much. I think that they slip a little bit due to that, but at the same time, I think just having Bell on the field or Bell on the team should make them feel a little bit better, even though I know we were kind of ripping everybody yesterday.
Yeah, we really were. We kind of went in on all those running backs, and so I think it's a good addition just for depth wise, like making sure you feel a little bit more safe with your running backs. Because like you said yesterday, like one more of those guys go down, and you're in a serious situation with your running back. So I'm sure it helped the team a little bit. Kai said save some of this for the afternoon. We just to remind you guys, we still have an NFL stream this afternoon. We're going to be playing a fun little game that I know Jared has been excited to come up with and excited for us to do. And I know there's going to be some little friendly wagers on the line as well. So it's going to be a good time. Little Italy asked, would you pick up Tyson or Le'Veon as a handcuff for Gus? I feel like we had this exact same question yesterday, but it was when we just had Tyson. Now that we have Le'Veon, which one would you pick up as a handcuff?
I would still pick up Tyson. I can't trust Le'Veon Bell to play more than what he played last year against for the Chiefs, and we didn't see much out of him. He didn't even suit up for the Super Bowl. So for me, it's all about Williams, and I don't even know if I would even handcuff it all. Like there are better options to go around the league. Again, remember that they already have like Gus Edwards. Yes, is their technical RB1 on the depth chart, but Lamar Jackson is still there, and he's going to be the guy that gets the secondary rush attempts, if not the primary. So That's pretty much how I would read that situation.
For sure, definitely. John asked, do you agree Brunson should face off against Cannonier next? My personal opinion, I think it's fine as long as you're setting up Brunson for title contention, like especially after this last fight against Darren Till. He deserves some type of shot at the belt, whether it be a contenders fight or, just a straight shot at the belt, I think is fine too. I just think you need to give him his opportunity. Jared, you were on the podcast with me when we talked about that MMA card last week.
Yeah.
I talked about how I thought Till was going to win that one, and Till just got absolutely dominated, man. It looked bad for Till. Looked really good for Brunson. I don't know if you were able to get a chance to watch that fight, but if you were, what did you think? And what do you think about Brunson in that division with Adesanya as the champ?
Yeah, I think that was it's tough to say, right? Because I think everything was leaning towards Till up until the fight started, and
Yeah.
Brunson just showed that, like, I don't know, could you say experience? I mean, he's 9 years older. Maybe, like, I don't know. Maybe that was the last hurrah for Brunson, because I don't think anything that he does from here on out is going to be any easier for him. So if we all thought that, if we were all down on him before, I don't expect anybody to be that hyped up for him to face anybody above him.
Yeah, I could see Cannonier be a big favorite against him. I could anyone who he faces off against next is going to be a big favorite. But we got to remember that Brunson's just been this different animal ever since coming to Sanford MMA, a completely different camp compared to his old one where he's been a team player, the coaches have talked very highly of him. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens in that division. I think it's one of the more interesting divisions, especially once we see Adesanya fight soon, hopefully before December. Let's see, in the chat, Brunson is a effing bear. We just thought Till takedown defense would be good. If Brunson gets you to the ground, you're done. Yeah, the ground and pound from Brunson was deadly, man. I mean, I knew he had good ground and pound, but we hadn't seen it in a little bit. So to see it there, it was insane. Kai asked, I can't believe Kai's asking more NFL questions when he just asked us to save it for the NFL show. But he said, can we see him cut for Latavius Murray if the price is right before they call him up from the practice squad? This is obviously referring to Le'Veon Bell and that Ravens situation. We didn't get a chance to talk about this either on the show, but Latavius Murray got cut yesterday. You're a freaking genius, Jared, because I think you called it before anyone else did.
Yeah, it was something that probably shocked some people, especially because he was going in drafts all summer as this guy who was going to, we were very high on him if Taysom Hill was going to be the starter, but it seems like things just shook out the wrong way for Murray. Tony Jones, who came in from school, he's a beast, and he's going to be able to take that RB2 spot behind Kamara. So, yeah, I mean, Murray and Gus Edwards on the same team seems a little bit counterproductive, right? But at the same time, I think that Murray should be able to go to a good system wherever he wants. He's probably going to, like, honestly, I know that Gallman went to Atlanta, but if he wouldn't have gone there, I could see him going to Atlanta or a team that needs that secondary running back piece.
Dude, if he goes to Atlanta, I'm going to cry. If he goes to Atlanta, I'm going to be tilted. I'm going to be absolutely tilted. That would be the most discouraging information I could get. Or like if he went to Houston too, like that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good for my shares either. Dude, if he went to Houston, imagine. I would also be screwed. So just praying that either he stays a free agent or he doesn't come to either one of those teams, because a lot of dynasty leagues would I'd be pretty upset with. All right, before we do get off, just want to have a reminder that the morning after show is presented to you by BetOnline.AG. BetOnline is going to be our sponsor throughout the NFL season, and like we said yesterday, we're extremely excited to have them on as our sponsor, as our exclusive sponsor as well. BetOnline.ag is more than just an online betting platform. Their focus on the player approach has built their reputation on offering clients nothing but the best, from cutting-edge technology, enticing promotions, and the latest sports betting odds. Arguably, their most popular and well-known service is their sportsbook, which we got to talk about a little bit earlier, and you guys got a little look at. Here you will be able to find live lines for all major sporting events, including NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, UFC, soccer, politics, and even table tennis, man. I remember during the pandemic, or like during the prime of the pandemic, they had sports betting on NFL or on Madden streams and like NBA streams or 2K streams. like sports betting on those. That was a lot of fun. Anyway, the live betting, which is my personal favorite feature, allows you to bet on your favorites quickly and easily and in real time. BetOnline is the absolute best platform for all your sports betting, horse betting, poker, and casino gambling needs, and we are so excited for them to be RotoRadar's exclusive partner for the 2021 NFL season. I know we talked a lot about BetOnline yesterday, but I know I love them, and I know you love them too, right?
I do. And to further that point, going off of Snell, we actually were able to take advantage of a player prop situation last night. 7.5 strikeouts was the prop for Blake Snell. Absolutely crushed that last night. Not even a doubt in my mind. That was, I think, taken care of in the 5th inning. So, yeah, it was a great night.
Yeah, he ended up having 10. I was looking at it because I was like, I wonder if Jared hit that bet on BetOnline. And I looked at it in the 6 innings, and I saw he was at 10 Ks, and I was like, yes, let's go. Good stuff. All right, touching back on the chat. How about, J. Cruz asks, how about go to Jacksonville and back up Robinson? He's better than Hyde. The only hesitation I have with that is that Urban Meyer does like Carlos Hyde quite a bit, just because he coached him a long time ago. So, like, for that reason, I feel like it's not. I feel like I'd favor him going to Atlanta or to the Houston Texans more. What do you think? Is there any chance he goes to Jacksonville, or do you maybe have another off-the-card wild spot he could end up going to?
I didn't think about Jacksonville too much just because I do think that, as much as we want to say that Hyde's not a good running back, it's more, we have to stop and take a step back and look at coaches and what they want, because that's always going to dictate what happens. And yeah, they like Hyde in this spot as a veteran to teach Robinson. And even though he sucks as a DFS play, and I know that's why we're all here. We look at things through a fantasy sports lens and a fantasy football lens, and Hyde is just one of those guys that nobody likes to talk about, but his value is definitely there for that team. One of the teams that comes to mind, and it's something that's going to make everybody cringe, but I think that Murray could find a spot on a playoff team that's looking to get a little bit deeper at the position and maybe go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That would be one of my first options.
Yeah, I could definitely see it happening. Just a little review before we do get off the air. Just want to tell you guys what's in store for today, because we do have the premium content schedule. Anthony providing CSGO stack for tomorrow, along with an EUM top stack sheet as well. Corn providing FanDuel single game lineups for every single slate. Make sure to take advantage of that. It's always fun to play Corn's lineups. I've been doing it a lot more recently, and I was telling Sean that I made a shit ton of money over the weekend with Corn. So make sure to be tailing Corn. Obviously, Sean and I have our podcast at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the 9-game main slate on MLB. And then we have another show coming in 2 hours, right, Jared? The NFL stream is going to be a good time.
It will be. We have a special game lined up for you guys specifically on FanDuel, and we'll talk about some practice sports, talk about this Le'Veon Bell situation a little bit more in depth, and we have a lot of stuff to figure out before tomorrow night's game.
Yep, definitely. It is going to be a good time. Jared, any final thoughts? And if not, we're going to get out of here and go get prepared for that NFL show.
Yeah, no final thoughts. See you guys in a few hours. Thank you again to everybody who joined up this morning. I know that it's early for a lot of you, so we're glad once again to be able to do a morning show so that we can, break that stuff and kind of get that sports day early for you.
Yep, definitely. Glad to get your days started off the right way. Please make sure to tune in for the NFL show. It's completely free here on Twitch, right? You don't even have to, you have to pay, you have to get a sub to chat, but it's like $4 right now because it's September. So like get the sub, be able to chat with us. We're going to have a good time. And then we have 30 to lock later on in the day. As always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good morning and good skill.